Greetings, pet lovers. Bridget here with First Street Pets, and today we're going to talk about the top 3 things you need to do today to find your missing dog. Now, the most important thing when you're looking for a missing dog or any kind of pet is to take action immediately. Don't sit at home hoping and praying that he will return. Many lost dogs are found, but they're more likely to be found by owners who are effectively and actively searching, and searching right away. Step 1 is to conduct a physical search. Now, this can be a little more complicated for a dog than it can for a cat, because dogs can go missing in a variety of ways. The first question to ask when starting your physical search for your missing dog is, how did he go missing and from where? Was he at home? Was he in the yard or in the house? How did you find out that he was missing? Did you come home and he's not there? Do you see that the gate is open from your yard and he is missing? Is there a window open? This is going to determine where you start your search and how you search for your dog. Did he go missing while you were out on a walk? Did he slip his collar and run away? Was he in the car on the way to the vet? Was he at a boarding facility? These are all things you need to consider when you're starting your physical search. You also want to ask yourself, has he gotten out before? Is he the type of dog who wanders around the neighborhood and knows where he's going? Or is this the first time this has happened? Because that will also affect your search. Did he go missing because of a fright, like fireworks? Or did he just get out because someone left the gate open? Was he wearing a collar with ID on it? Does he have a microchip? These are all very important considerations when starting your search. You're going to want to start your search at the place where your dog was last seen, or where you think that he was last, whether it's in your yard, by your house, at the vet, wherever you happen to be driving. There's a lot of different possible scenarios with a dog, but that's generally where you are going to start your search. You're going to want to start on foot, looking carefully, and if you don't find him within a few blocks of your home, you're going to want to start driving. It can be helpful to have someone else drive while you are in the passenger seat, because it can be very distracting to be driving while you are looking for your dog. It can also be very unsafe, and you're also probably going to be upset while you're doing this. So if at all possible, get a friend, a relative, or neighbor to drive while you are searching for your dog. Now, should you see your dog, that's great. But I don't recommend that you chase or try to catch him. Very often dogs will run even from their own families, because either they're out there having a good time and adventure, or they are afraid because they've run away because something frightened them or got their attention, or they may be skittish and fearful. If you have another dog in the home, it may be a good idea to take that dog with you while you were out searching. That is, if the 2 dogs are friends. If they don't like each other, that method may not work. But dogs do tend to be very attracted to other dogs. I have accidentally found quite a few dogs over the years just while I was out walking dogs, and other dogs come up and just start following because they're attracted to other dogs. So this may help you in your search, but again, only if the dogs like each other and get along. As I said, it's very important not to chase your dog or try to grab him. And don't be surprised if he doesn't come when called. This is not uncommon. Step number 2, if you're unable to find your dog by a physical search, you've been searching for a couple of hours, you don't find him, your second step is going to be to check the shelter. And today's photo bomber is Elf. This is Elf. So very important to check the shelter when your dog goes missing. Dogs are much more likely than cats to end up at a shelter. There's a few reasons for that. One is that dogs are more noticeable. People tend to not notice cats outside, and cats also frequently hide, so they're not that visible to people walking down the street. However, if someone sees a dog running down the street without an owner, they're probably going to notice, and they're going to be likely to either try to catch it or to call animal control. It is very important that you not delay going to check the shelter, because holding periods can be very short. In California, the holding period is only 72 hours. That's 72 hours you have to figure out that your dog is missing, figure out which shelter to go to, get down there while they're open during business hours, and reclaim your dog. Now, there can be some exceptions if they have valid ID, like a license, a name tag, or a registered microchip, but that's only going to extend your hold a little bit, and don't use that as a guarantee. Collars often fall off. Microchips may not be picked up by the scanner the first time they scan the dog. He may be found by another person who doesn't scan the dog, so don't rely on those things. Get down to the shelter as quickly as you can if you don't find your dog right away on your physical search. If you don't know which shelter to go to, I suggest that you start by trying your local law enforcement office. The police, the sheriff's department, or whomever, they work hand in hand with animal control and the local shelters. Some of them do animal control themselves, especially in smaller communities. So they are going to want to help you. They should be able to tell you where to go, who to call, and at least where to begin your search. You also might start at a shelter with which you are familiar. Maybe you've been to an event or adopted from that shelter. Go ahead and call them or stop by there and ask where you need to begin your search to look for a stray animal, either near your home or in the area where your dog went missing, because that could be a different jurisdiction. So if you were on the road or in a different area, try to have an address or at least an intersection so that they can look it up on the map and determine what jurisdiction that was in. The jurisdictional system for shelters is crazy and confusing, and so you'll want to have that information in order to know where to go and look. Now with dogs, this can be even more complicated because sometimes people will pick them up in their car while they're out driving, and they will continue driving. I have heard countless stories of people driving down interstate highways, finding a dog, continuing on to where they were going, and the dog ends up 50, 70, 100 miles away from where it was found. Very frustrating, but hopefully the folks at the receiving shelter will try to get a more accurate location of where the dog was found, and at least call the shelter for that area, or fax or email them the information that they have about the dog so that someone coming in can get that information. When you go to the shelter, it is super important to not just walk in, look at the dogs you see, and leave. Many people do this, too many people, either because they've never been to a shelter before, they don't know how it works, or maybe they don't want to bother anyone, they don't see anyone at the front desk, or perhaps there's a long line, so they just go and take care of themselves. There are many other animals than what you see in the shelter. Typically, those are adoption areas, and those pets are available for adoption, but there will be other kennels in the back, housing sick animals, housing animals just picked up by animal control. Your dog could still be on the ACO's truck on its way into the shelter. He could be at a pet hospital. Sometimes veterinarians will take in stray animals and then bring them to the shelter later, or they may have been transported there because of illness or injury. So it is very important when you go to the shelter to check in at the front desk, explain your situation, and ask to see all the dogs that have been picked up as strays. After looking at all the dogs in the shelter, they will probably have you fill out a lost report and leave them with some information about your dog. So definitely go ahead and do that. Leave that information, fill out the report. Hopefully you will find your dog at this point. Many dogs that go missing get picked up quickly and reclaimed at the shelter the same day. So hopefully this is you, but if not, you're going to want to follow up. So don't just assume because you went one time, because you filled out the lost report, that they're going to call you when your dog comes in. Unfortunately, many of those lost reports go into a binder. never to be seen again. Now, some shelters have a bigger staff, a bigger volunteer team that will go through those reports on some kind of a regular basis and check them out. But unfortunately, many do not. So you may have filled out that information and it may never be looked at again. So even though you should still do that, certainly don't count on it. Also, don't count on your dog's ID. Collars can easily fall off when dogs get loose. Microchips may not be picked up the first time, so don't assume that they will call you if your dog comes in. Ideally, you need to be checking daily. Hopefully, the shelter has an online listing of the dogs that they pick up, and you can check that. I would also suggest calling if they have a receptionist who will answer the phone and someone who will check for you and answer your questions. Unfortunately, some shelters don't. They have automated voicemail systems, or they won't check these listings. You have to come down yourself. But in any case, it's worth trying. If not, then you're going to have to go down there. I would recommend at least every other day. Again, that short hold period, you don't want to miss out on that time, because legally within 72 hours in some parts of the country, your dog could be adopted, could be transferred to a rescue group, and you may have a heck of a time ever getting him back once they've been transferred, or could be put to sleep. So you don't want to take that risk. You want to check right away, and you want to check every day, whether you're going down, calling, or checking the listings on the website. Missy is a dog that was missing in San Francisco, and her owner pulled out all the stops to find her. In fact, I wrote an article about her for Beowulf magazine because it was such an incredible story. Missy was sort of a nondescript tan pit bull who slipped her leash when she was out on a walk with a relative, took off down the street, and could not be found. Missy's owner looked for her exhaustively, calling the shelter, going down there every day, putting up signs, doing everything she possibly could to get the word out about her missing dog. And she was missing for some days. I want to say maybe even a whole week. And because she was a kind of a nondescript dog, it's really challenging. There are a lot of tan pit bulls that all look exactly the same. So it wasn't like she was something unusual that someone would spot and notice right away. Now, she was wearing a pink harness when she went missing, but at some point she lost that. And at another point, she lost her collar with tags. The owner did get a call from someone who found the collar and tags, but no dog. So that also came off. When I talked to her on the phone, she joked that the people at the shelter must hate me because I'm down there every day. I'm handing out my flyers to everyone I see. I'm telling everybody about my missing dog. And I said, no, you're doing the right thing. You will find your dog because you are getting the word out. Everyone is aware of it. Well, lo and behold, she got a call one day from someone at the San Francisco Zoo, of all places. The worker at the zoo saw a dog in the back in the employees area, knew the dogs weren't supposed to be back there. And when he called her, he said, right away, I knew this was the dog from the flyers. I have seen these flyers all over town. I knew that was the dog. So he was able to call her. She said, please don't try to catch her. I will come down right away. She did. And thank God she was able to get a hold of Missy and to get her back home safely. But it was because of her persistence. If she had given up, if she hadn't gotten the word out so much, Missy may have been picked up and kept by someone or sent to a rescue. So if you still haven't found your dog, you haven't found him through the physical search, you haven't yet found him at the shelter, your next action step is going to be to notify your neighbors. Now, I know a lot of people don't like talking to their neighbors. We may not even know the people who live in the neighboring apartments or right next to our house, but this is very important because someone has seen something. Someone will see your dog, either when he got away or later or at a local school or shopping center. Someone will see something, and that information will help you to get him back home. So you can start with neighbors you know, maybe people you see when they're out walking their dog, or when you're out working in the yard or something like that, and you can have a chance to chat with them. If you feel safe to do so, just knock on doors, just go from door to door and talk to people and explain the situation. I would recommend that you have something to give them. Now, we're going to do a whole separate video on posters, flyers, and mailers, so I suggest that you watch that for more in-depth information on how to create those tools for finding your missing dog. But at least on that first day, you can just print something off your computer at home, even if it's a really basic half a piece of paper with a description of your dog and your phone number on it. Just something to hand people when you see them. That way, you know, even if it just says black lab camo collar, here's my phone number. Anything just so if someone sees your dog an hour later, they can call you. This is very important. The purpose of getting the word out is to generate leads and to get more eyes on your search, because you can only do so much. And at some point you'll have to go to work or go to school or take care of your kids or whatever other responsibilities you may have. So the more people you have out there helping you with this task, the more likely you are to be successful. If you don't see any sign, you're going to get discouraged. If you get discouraged, you're going to stop looking. And people don't find their pets when they stop looking and when they give up. So getting those kind of leads is going to really spark you to continue looking and to follow up on those leads. Now, a note on leads, as I mentioned in the case of Missy, your dog may be kind of general looking. There may be a lot of other dogs who look the same. Not all of those leads will be good, but you will want to follow up on at least the ones that are reasonable. Now, you may have to vet these leads, especially if you get a lot. Let's say you get 2 or 3 calls that are in the same area that's pretty close to your home or wherever your dog went missing. That sounds like a good lead to me. Someone else may call from 5 miles away and say they saw your dog. If that's your only lead, maybe you want to check it out, but I would go with the ones that sound more reasonable. You'll just have to use logic. And again, dogs can end up anywhere because people can pick them up in cars, so you do want to follow up. But as you start getting those leads, you'll be able to tell the ones that sound more likely as opposed to the ones that are just someone who means well or maybe saw a different dog or maybe didn't see a dog at all and it's just a crank collar, unfortunately. When you are talking to your neighbors and out looking for your dog in these searches and handing out flyers and whatnot, I think it's important to mention safety first. Now, many animal lovers, we often think of what the animals need and we don't think of ourselves. And I have seen people do some crazy stuff, whether when looking for their own pet or trying to rescue another animal. I have seen people walking on the freeway, on an interstate highway, trying to catch a dog. That's a good way to get yourself and the dog and possibly other people killed. You want to be extremely careful when you are around any kind of roadway. Unfortunately, often many people trying to catch a dog will scare it out into traffic where it will get hit. So that's something to think of for the dog and yourself and the drivers. If they swerve to avoid, they may also get into an accident and be hurt or killed. If you actually see your dog out on a busy road or you get a call that he is there, go ahead and call the police, call animal control. They will help you. They can stop traffic. They have the tools to catch a dog in a situation like that, whereas you do not. You will only get yourself and others hurt. So please consider that when you're out looking for your dog. You will also want to be careful about trespassing. You may want to look on someone else's property or land when you are searching for your dog, but be very careful if you do not have permission to do so. If you are out in the country somewhere and people have never seen you before and they don't know who you are and what you're doing on their property, you might find yourself looking down the barrel of a gun because the people who live there think that you're a prowler or a thief or something, and they're concerned for their safety. So this is part of why it's important to notify your neighbors and get those signs up so people know who you are and what you're doing around their property. While you're out searching, take someone with you if possible, especially if you're out at night, especially if you're in an isolated area. Just try to use common sense. Think of areas that you may not want to be walking around in by yourself, whether you're in the middle of the city or out in the country. Just please be careful. Take someone with you, notify the authorities if you think it's important, if you think there may be a concern. There was a lady that I helped a while back who was looking for her missing cat, and she was looking for her at night around her condominium complex, and the neighbors called the police because they didn't know who she was. They didn't recognize her, and they didn't know why she was walking around the backs of their houses late at night. So when the police came, she explained the situation, and they were very understanding, of course. But had she notified the neighbors ahead of time, she could have avoided that problem. Most importantly is don't give up. Many missing dogs are found, many soon after they go missing, some days, weeks, or even months later. And we will make some additional videos on looking for your missing pet after some time has passed, because there are some different steps you'll want to take at that time. But hopefully these 3 steps will be helpful to you in getting your search started, and hopefully to be successful and get your dog back home quickly. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We will release new videos every Friday on a variety of content, including lost pet recovery, pet care, animal welfare, and other important pet-related topics.